Hello, dear friends. Once again, we'd like to start from Kaveri Gifted Education and Research Center, Pune. A very interesting discussion with our parent, Mrs. Chithra Ramaswami. Hello, Chitra.
Hi, ma'am. How are you? Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for agreeing to have this dialogue. You've been a parent, having a dialogue with us for the last, I think, more than 8 years now.
Yes, more
I
than
think
8 years.
more than 8 years. And I've always been very fascinated by the narration of the journey that you've had with your son, how you went about interacting with him on every time he showed interest in either um, astronomy, reading books, science, discovering things. So I wanted us to really understand as a parent. I'm sure when you met him and you were able to interact with him, there were a lot of things as a parent that you also had to contribute. So, can you share with us what was the focus for you in the initial years before 10 as a parent? How did you go about as a parent having an interaction with your son?
Hmm. Actually, first in the beginning, before he was 10 years old, I was doing like any other parent would do, take him to the library. I would buy building blocks, Legos, and alphabet blocks and all that. And now when I started going to the library, we used to pick up all sorts of books, picture books, alphabet books, something with figure, just pictures. And I used to read, and sometimes he would insist on make asking me to read the same book probably 5 6 times. Then I noticed that he would notice something different every time I read a book, which was actually quite surprising for me also. So what I understood was he really liked books with more with patterns on it. So what I did was then patterns of shapes.
Hmm.
So
How old
then
was
I
he
went.
at that time?
He was probably, I think, two, two. He
Oh,
was
okay.
probably two. By yeah, around 2.5, 3, he was able to start. He then I started. What I did was I went to a toy store. Then I started. I bought the same shapes but in 3D forms. Actual when he can actually feel the shape, how it is, so that And then there was a like a toy house where he would fit the shape into that hole, so that in this way the hand-eye coordination also develops. And same time, I will tell him that this is what this shape is, so he will start repeating it. I mean, in the sense, he will hear me repeat it. At that point, he was still lisping and not started talking yet. So I think by 3 or so, or even 2.5, he started recognizing trapezium, rhombus, these kind of shapes. I would say he would pick it up and everything. Then I saw that he was more like any toy
I'm
we
just going
bought.
to interrupt you. I find that a lot of parents are doing this already, right? Even for
Yeah.
normal children, they're doing this. They're showing them shapes. They're these days mental ability games, so they have a lot of this. But how did you know that he was a little more advanced compared to other children or for his age? How did you really know that?
Um, I probably because see when he started doing these shapes, I started buying puzzles. And it's for puzzles you need a lot of concentration. And he was able to sit like hours together in a puzzle. He started, I think, even by when he was in grade 1, he was able to started doing 3D puzzles also, which had like 1030 pieces. But I started working with puzzles probably when he was 2. I started with 4 of course every parent does it, but then you will be able to see that the child will not give up easily. You'll be able to notice that he's not giving up. He's trying all sorts of methods, trying to twist the shape of the puzzle just so that it fits in. So I kind of recognized, okay, he really wants to do this. So I started buying him more puzzles, which will actually enable him to he was I could then I started reading up. So I found out that children of that age, when they start doing puzzles, they'll be able to rotate the shape in their head
Wow.
also.
Mm.
So that's how I knew that he was into puzzles. So, and this developed his critical thinking. And I promoted him from a normal floor piece puzzle to a 3D puzzle.
Puzzles.
And he started building the Capitol Hill, the Eiffel Tower, and many such structures are there. But I think that is how it all started. And as for uh, as I was saying, any toy we bought, he used to see the working of the toy more than playing with it. So I kind of recognized that he was hands on. And so whatever he did in puzzles, like if there was something on the solar system, if he was doing a puzzle on the solar system, I would go and pick up a book on that.
Okay.
So he would then able to relate. You would see the same pictures,
Mm.
and then I thought, okay, you know what? Now we have read something, we have built it in a puzzle. Why don't we actually build it and see? So I used to cut the planets in a cardboard of different shapes and sizes, label them, and then I would color it in different colors. So and then I would
Actually, a
arrange
lot
it.
of work for both the parent and for the child. If you need to have the
Yes,
child involved, your participation and your attention to details of how do you really make a child of that age visualize it so that he's able to see in a stepwise process is very important, I hear.
I believe you have to be really creative, as in we will have to bring ourselves, probably think in their eyes and, actually bring ourselves down to his level and, think how, if he has actually now done it in a puzzle and I have read it in a book, what will actually make him ask more questions on this. So that is how I thought, and that's how I started cutting out these, shapes in cardboard and actually line them up, build it, actually build this entire solar system. So when he saw it, like he was able to completely relate. I could see that he was able to put all three together, what he did in a puzzle and what I read in the book. Immediately what he would do is, when I say Jupiter, he would point the same thing in the book also. So
You
in this way,
complete all 3D,
yeah,
having read about it and also the
building it.
puzzles that he had.
Yeah,
Yes.
so he knows then. So I thought this is a way of making them apply what they read in
Fantastic.
real life.
Really fantastic. Yeah.
And also, and then we started reading, since he was obviously, if you're reading about space, you will have to read about rockets. So I thought, what is the best way, something simple and something easy for him to handle when he was 5 years old. So we built a rocket with a Pepsi bottle, then made a cone. Then actually I drilled some holes in it for some air pressure, filled it with water. Then I used a cycle pump. So when I pressed the cycle pump, the air pressure used to, the water used to go up. So I told him this was how the working of a rocket takes place. Then I talked to him about air pressure. This is how I introduced him to physics part of the space. So every activity, whatever I read, I would bring a puzzle to it, and then I would ask him to build it. So this is how what happened even when he was reading about electricity also. I bought him a lot of these electrical kits. I used to sit and read with him about parallel circuit, series circuit. Then he would start building it. Then after that moment he built, like, about light and all that, I will then tell him this is, about Einstein, about different scientists. Then I got him interested in physics, and started reading to him about these biographies of, so, many scientists. So this kind of motivated him. So what I feel is the parents part, I mean, I think it's a
Very
huge
important.
amount of work. It's a lot of work on the
But how do
parents side.
we really take up, going to school? Because school, for a 5-year old, I'm sure they don't teach the kind of level that you were talking about. So, how
No,
did both of you manage when he started having to go to regular school and he had to do studies which were very different level compared to the level that he was doing at home.
Right. Like in kindergarten, I mean, it was very tough because he used to come cry. He used to tell me that, it's boring. Again, they are teaching me ABCD. And, it was, and I was totally lost at that point. I kept hearing him, but at the same time, I was thinking how we can help him. The teachers were telling me that he's a way ahead of class, and I don't blame the school. They are there to cater to the rest of the kids also. So I was asking them, like, if I give any books, will that be possible? See, in a kindergarten stage, when you give books, it is going to distract other kids also. So
Absolutely.
because they all want to look at the picture books. So what I thought was, I had a discussion with the principal. She said, why don't he come to school for 3 days in a week, and 2 days you can keep him at home? Anyway, kindergarten was just half a day. So in that way, I had to actually convince Shankar that, see, at the same time, he's living in a real world also. We cannot make him live in a world of utopia. And after going through these, I mean, he's in grade 10. I think in the hard way, I learned there is no the perfect school. I mean, you will
So truly said.
there is no such thing as the perfect school. I mean, I'm sure all the schools are there to help these kind of children. I think it's the way we approach the teachers and the principal. At the same time, we all have to teach our child that there is a system. If you want to go into the system, you'll have to follow the system. Yes, probably you can, bend it a little bit, but you cannot actually break the end, because then you're teaching something wrong to the child, that you don't need to fit into something. And but at the same time, we'll have to motivate him. So at home, so he'll be at home for 2 days, so 3 days he'll be there, so he gets to have fun with coloring and everything. So at home, it'll be more exposure to other things.
So that means those 2 days you need to be prepared what you are going to do. It's almost like semi homeschooling kind, right?
Yes, yes. So, like how I would prepare is like, the 3 days he'll come back in the afternoon, he'll have a short nap. After that, it'll be reading time. So I would like, it'll be more like a motivation for him. I will tell him, whatever we read, we are going to build it,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever we on one such instant was about solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. So I said, this time we are not going to build solar eclipse, instead we are going to actually enact it. So I'll wear a board saying I am the sun. He will have to have a board saying he's the moon, and then my father-in-law will have to wear a, a earth.
Oh,
So
and the
this is
entire
how it was.
family enacting this so that your son
Yes,
could have
he
a
actually the
effective.
yes, yeah. So he actually saw the entire, for a solar eclipse, he was able to understand it very beautifully. Actually, he was able to then, verbally explain what solar eclipse or lunar eclipse was all about. So this is how I think the first 10 years you will have to spend a lot of time either experimenting yourself, going to libraries, building things, and being very creative, and talking to the school and see if everything, if they can work out a deal with the parent and the child.
Okay, fantastic. Um, I know that as the involvement of parent is, like you rightly said, very, very huge, consistent, and you need to be totally in sync with your child in the first, especially in the first 8 to 10 years. But as they start getting into the preteens and teens, they have certain already set patterns. The
Right.
parenting then shifts a little bit. So,
Correct.
so what shift happened for you? How did you go about? How did your interaction with your son then happen, and what kind of resources you needed to, uh, look for and approach when he started getting a little older?
There are two things in this. One is his emotional and social temperament. The other
Okay.
one is about motivating his skills, which he is already having. The social and the emotional part, is always going to be a very tough one,
That's
because
something we as psychologists also struggle, because that's where I feel we play a very important role. When we look, we are so fascinated by the achievement, the accolades, the prizes the child gets. But
right.
if there is a small, I wouldn't even say negative remark, even some harsh remark or something which for that child is not appropriate, they get so upset and
Yes.
withdrawn. All that really happens. Yeah.
I
How do
mean, they're very emotional. I
you,
mean, I think this is true for all gifted children. They cannot, I mean, even a slightest harsh word, they cannot take it, and they expect everyone to be very fair. It should be black and white, totally honest. Even the slightest, gray area, they are going to back off, and they will say that something is wrong. And, I'm not for this. And they, by the time they socialize, I think they will probably try, but if the chemistry doesn't work out, I think the first step moment they take, they will have a very tough time making this happen. That's what even I faced with my son, because he used to go to school, come back, and then he used to cry saying they are bullying me because they don't understand. And like, even their interest, they would love subtle jokes which a normal child will not be able to grasp it. Like, not many kids like Calvin Hobbes. Calvin Hobbes is a cartoon which is very good. Actually, the
yeah,
strip, it will have very subtle jokes. It's a but then when he's not able to
share this with us. Yes.
share this with his other friends,
Yeah.
he'll get really emotional. He'll get very upset because he sees that around him there are children who are talking about everything which
Mhm.
he is not sure of. So I used to tell him that, yes, you know what, just wait there. Someone will come, but till then, probably, you will have to wait it out, or else try to probably, get into a group, see what they're talking about. Probably you might also learn something new. So he tried doing that. He was open minded. I told him it's always nice, be open minded. You never know what you'll come across. He tried doing that. It was not working on because it was always about video games or something which was
An
uncomfortable for
area
him.
I really understand, but I'm kind of curious. So as he started going to, let's say, sixth, seventh, eighth grade, and his interest in physics started, or astrophysics started getting more advanced. So what are the resources you were giving? The resources you were looking for in people, in books. So how did you go about that?
So, see, moment I knew that he was a more of a science person, and I knew that after a certain stage, we cannot build everything at home and we cannot have puzzles all the time.
Yes.
So, I would, what I did was I started looking, Google searching, and then I found in Bangalore there was this open day in
Mhm.
IISc. So, I used to take him to IISc open day every year. So
Okay.
he will have a lot of fun looking at all the department experiments and everything. At one, and he would talk to the people there who are actually representing, I mean, presenting the experiment. They would be really amazed by his knowledge and his questions of what he's asking about the experiment. At one such point, when I think when he was in grade 7, he got an internship in the Earth Science Department of Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore.
Mhm.
So this was actually quite a big dream come true experience for Shankar, because he had a 2 year experience as an intern in the Indian Institute of Science. He was like a regular college kid, and he used to go during his summer vacation when when we get in the school. So
So
what
what used to
happens
happen for
is,
school, regular school then?
regular school, he'll be going to regular school, but the some so what happened is, when they offered me an internship, I told them that he's a school going kid. So they said, okay, then let him come during the summer vacation.
Okay.
So the summer vacation, I think for 2.5 years, every summer for 3 to 3.5 months, we will be going to IISc. And we so what we did, because the commute in Bangalore is difficult, we took a room there next to the university. I mean, Indian Institute of Science, and he used to go every day. So practically, there was no summer vacation for him. But then children like him, they used to thrive there. it was like summer vacation for him there, and he really loved that place. I think maybe
So
because
then you
he
started
went.
going to reaching out to outside resources. That's what you're saying. So it's not
Yes, you have to.
more books or things that we could bring it at home, but you started going, trying to meet mentors or people in that field.
Yes,
So
yes.
it started going more further than what is visible.
Correct. That's when I knew about NIAS. So he became part of the gifted education program in NIAS. Then through NIAS, I came to know about I think, like, when you start meeting people in these forums or in the open day of these colleges, or when you go to any science fairs or competitions, you will know that there are other competitions also. One such was Vishweshwara Museum. In the third floor, there is something called Idea Lab, where there in there they have everything out there on the table for the children to actually experiment. Very few kids know that there is a place like that in Bangalore. It's in Vishweshwara Museum, and through them I came to know that there is something called Advanced Learning Center, which is happening in another school. So these kind of things, I think,
You
only
have to
when
be
you
very
start.
alert about what's happening around, where, what is, and then
Yeah, exactly. When you, and then when you go to these fairs, you can talk to other parents also. When you meet other parents, they'll probably lead you to another, chain. It's more like a chain reaction. And then when you start talking to these people, you can probably, key down on something which your son would be interested in, or daughter.
Mm. So you were telling me something very interesting, that now he doesn't need you to lead him anymore. He has
Yes.
to connect and he's able to go. So how does that make you feel? You've been working a lot with your son, but he most kids still look at their parents and want their parents to say what to choose, how to go about, But right now your son is already very clear and going. So how did you go about that?
I think, see, I think first thing is, I think that open communication is really needed for starting from toddler years. Open communication with children is a must, whether they are gifted or not gifted, because nowadays outside there is so much, I mean, good and bad opportunities are there.
Mhm.
And the way they are exposed, it's better they communicate to you about their feelings or what they do outside. And so that is how I think, the you have to start communicating with your son, and tell him, like, talk to him about his interests. And when you see that he's self motivated, probably you can encourage his motivation by competitions, books, and mentors, talking to people. But at the same time, what you can do is, you have to slowly learn to let go. You have to um, tell him that he is independent at one point, and then tell him that if you need some, you'll have to probably voice out what you think. People are not going to know what you have in your mind. So I encouraged him to speak out to people and ask them. So in that way, I think he got his self confidence. So he knew that if anything he needs to ask. And I told him there is a certain point after, like, because I couldn't be there in his internship. I think that was a big
Breaking
milestone.
point for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a breaking point. Yeah. So one freedom is I don't need to do any more experiments at home.
Yes.
And but so I would suggest, like, when you start learning to let go, you have to also give them the right freedom. The freedom for them to tell you what they are thinking, but not at the same time that you have to make sure that you're still, seeing what they're browsing on the internet, making sure that they are doing the right thing. Because at the same time, these people are very gullible. They
Yeah.
would just, I mean, they would believe whatever it's there. So I would tell him that probably run it by me just before you go to any website or any YouTube channels. So I think this is how I slowly backed off. Then I told him, you have to plan your day. Again, time. And gifted children, they don't go hand in hand at all. They are told when
I'm
they
sure
get
we can talk
engrossed.
about that in another episode where, people think that they're so smart, they must be figuring out everything. They don't realize simple things like prioritizing what to
Yes,
first, and timelines just doesn't match at all. Yeah.
yes.
It's wonderful, Chitra. I know we can continue having this conversation. But today, I really appreciate you spending time with us and sharing two very vital lifespan, basically.
Right.
From 0 to 10, what do children do, and how as a parent you need to support them, and as they grow older to a teen and now to a young adult, how to really go about. Um, we'll look forward to having another dialogue where we can talk more detail about this other small segments. But thank you
Sure.
once again. Thank you so much. Yeah, really
Thank
appreciate
you, ma'am.
it. Yeah.
Thank you.